Imagine walking into a public bathroom. There are no walls, no privacy, just a long stone bench with holes carved into it. Beside you, strangers sit shoulder to shoulder. And instead of toilet paper, a single sponge on a stick, shared by everyone. This was daily life in ancient Rome. When we think of Rome, we imagine power colosseums, legions, emperors. But behind the marble statues and grand temples, life for the average Roman was crowded, loud, and often brutal. Today, we step beyond the empire's glory and into the real streets of Rome. At its height, Rome was home to over 1 million people. That made it one of the largest cities in the ancient world. The streets were packed, vendors shouting, carts rolling over stone roads, animals everywhere, smoke rising from ovens and workshops. It was noisy, dirty, chaotic, and if you were poor, which most people were, you didn't live in a marble villa. You lived in an insula. Insulae were ancient apartment buildings. They could rise 5 or 6 stories high. Built quickly, poorly constructed. The higher you lived, the cheaper your rent, and the more dangerous your life. Fires were common, collapses were frequent. Water had to be carried upstairs by hand. There were no fire departments. If your building caught fire, you ran. Despite the chaos, Rome was surprisingly organized. Food markets filled the city. The average Roman diet consisted of bread, porridge, olives, cheese, wine, diluted with water. Meat was expensive and often reserved for special occasions. Street food stalls were common. Hot meals could be bought cheaply, especially for those who had no kitchens in their apartments. But malnutrition wasn't rare. The wealthy, meanwhile, feasted on exotic foods: peacock, dormice, imported spices. Roman banquets were displays of status. The more unusual the dish, the more powerful the host. Rome's greatness was built on one uncomfortable truth: slavery. At its peak, slaves may have made up 25 to 30% of the population. They came from conquered territories, prisoners of war, debt slaves, children born into slavery. Some worked in homes as teachers or servants. Others worked in brutal conditions: mines, farms, construction sites. Slaves had no legal identity of their own. They were property. And yet, strangely, Roman slavery wasn't always permanent. Some slaves could earn or buy freedom. Freed slaves, called freedmen, could even become wealthy. But freedom was never guaranteed. And rebellion was crushed without mercy. If there's one symbol of Rome's brutality, it's the Colosseum. The Colosseum could hold over 50,000 spectators. Crowds gathered to watch gladiator battles, wild animal hunts, public executions. Gladiators were often slaves or prisoners. They trained in specialized schools. They fought not always to the death, but often enough. Blood was entertainment. Victory meant fame. Defeat meant death, sometimes decided by the crowd's gesture. For Romans, these games weren't cruelty, they were tradition, a demonstration of discipline, courage, and power. Rome prided itself on law. The 12 tables formed the foundation of Roman legal systems. Citizens had rights, but those rights depended on status. Punishments were harsh: crucifixion for slaves, exile for elites, public beatings. Criminals could be executed in the arena for spectacle. Justice was not always fair. It was often political, and power spoke louder than truth. Roman women had more freedom than women in some ancient societies, but they were still under male authority. They could own property, they could manage businesses, they could attend social events. But legally, they were expected to be under the guardianship of a male relative. Marriage was central to Roman life. Divorce was surprisingly common, especially among the elite. Women could initiate it. Elite women influenced politics indirectly, but they could not vote, and they could not hold public office. Their power was subtle, behind closed doors. Now, here's something unexpected. Despite its dirt, Rome was obsessed with bathing. Public bathhouses were everywhere. The most famous were the baths of Caracalla. The baths of Caracalla were massive, almost like modern leisure centers. Bathing wasn't just cleaning, it was socializing, exercising, networking. Relaxing, the process moved through different rooms: hot baths, warm baths, cold plunges. But remember, there was no soap as we know it. Oil was applied and scraped off with metal tools called spatulas, and water wasn't always changed frequently. Clean by Roman standards. Romans believed in many gods: Jupiter, Mars, Venus. Religion was practical. You prayed for success, for victory, for protection. Temples were everywhere. Sacrifices were common. Later, a small religious movement began to grow. Christianity at first, it was persecuted. Christians refused to worship the emperor as a god. But within centuries, the empire itself would adopt Christianity as its official religion. Rome changed, but its foundations remained. None of Rome's dominance would have been possible without its legions. Roman soldiers trained relentlessly. They built roads wherever they went, fortified camps overnight. They were disciplined, organized, efficient. Military service could bring honor and citizenship. But it also meant years away from home. Harsh conditions, constant warfare. The empire expanded through conquest, and conquest always carried a cost. When we look back at ancient Rome, we see grandeur, but the average Roman life was crowded, short, hard. Disease spread quickly in packed streets. Fires destroyed entire neighborhoods. Political corruption was constant, and emperors could be unpredictable. Some were brilliant, others were unstable. Like Nero, whose reign became synonymous with excess and chaos. Power could shift overnight. Stability was never guaranteed. Ancient Rome was a civilization of extremes. Incredible engineering, aqueducts that carried water for miles, roads that still exist today, law systems that shaped the modern world. But also slavery, violence, spectacle, and inequality. It was a city of marble temples built on human suffering. and yet it endured for centuries. So the question is, if you lived in ancient Rome, not as a senator, not as a general, but as an ordinary citizen in a crowded insula, would you see it as glorious or simply survive it?